Okay, hello and welcome everybody to this online tutorial that Jess and I are creating for you today. And it is called How to Make Your Meals Medicinal. And we really hope that you've had a fantastic start to 2015 and you're feeling really rested and recharged and ready to launch into this year ahead, which I'm sure is going to be massive for a lot of us. And being the start of the new year, we just thought it was a pretty optimal time to spend some attention thinking about our diet and our food, as I know many of us are aiming to reach goals that we have set in store for this year, of which health and wellness can play a really big part in. So we're just wanting to share some information that you'll hopefully make becoming educated around your food choices and implementing and actually carrying out healthy changes just a bit easier, which is hence our topic, how to make all of your meals medicinal, because I know it's something that a lot of us are working towards on how to eat as healthy for our specific body type as we can possible. So my name is Claire. I'm a naturopath and I'm the creator of the website clairesholisticpursuits.com.
And my name is Jess and I run the blog awakenyourwellbeing.com, where I share lots of whole food recipes and posts on positive body image and eating mindset. And I'm currently studying eating psychology to become an eating psychology coach. So Claire and I created the medicinal meal plans last year, which was a series of 5 ebooks where we put a fresh twist on meal planning by focusing on healing 5 of our most common health conditions, but with food. So here are 5 tips to make your meals medicinal.
So I probably think the most important thing to do, which does require a bit of honesty on our behalf, is to do a bit of a diet audit and to become really aware of what you're eating. So awareness around our food is incredibly important, and I think sometimes we can stick our head in the sand a little bit and say, oh no, me eating this isn't contributing to my health, or it's just a bit easier to just not think about it. So this ties in with probably the most simple concepts, and there's been a few images and sayings posted up on Facebook about it, but really every food, every ingredient, every meal that we eat can either contribute to our health or to work to break it down. And foods very clearly today that are available on our supermarket shelves either deplete us or nourish us. Mm-hmm. So I think it can just be really good to just sit down, note down really honestly all of the foods that you're currently eating, even the ones that you wouldn't want to admit out loud or that you wouldn't want to admit to your partner or to your family, and figure out what foods could be depleting you or nourishing you. And that then really requires the knowledge to know what that actually is. So foods that deplete us are really anything that's refined. So refined sugar and refined flours are probably biggies. And for starters, that would probably take about 80% of the food off our supermarket shelves off the optional list.
Yes.
Also, vegetable oils and things like preservatives and additives and shelf stabilizers and thickeners, and gluten these days is a huge problem for so many people, and dairy can be quite a problem for some people too. So all of these foods can be quite foreign to the body. They can be quite hard for it to break down, and they really can take nutrients that we have in the body and energy from the body to digest these foods, to break them down, to process them, and then to actually eliminate them and carry them out of the body. So if you were to eat these foods, you could technically end up with a decreased nutrient status compared to if you hadn't eaten it or before you ate it, which really makes them quite depleting foods. Whereas our nourishing foods, I would probably say, are just simply whole foods. And these are foods that just, I know that can be a bit of a buzzword as well, but really they're just foods that haven't been touched or tampered with by humans. We haven't hybridized it or turned it into a chemical additive. It's
actually scary when you think about what we do with food.
It really is. It really is. I agree. And these foods, instead, they've just been picked from the ground or from a tree or have been harvested, and they're just exactly as they are. And these are the things that when you eat them contain a huge range of nutrition, huge amount of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals. When you put them into the body, they actually get in and they repair and they add to your body and they make it a better place compared to what it was before. And if you think about eating a meal 3 times a day, 5 or 6 times a day that contains these types of foods, then that's when we're really going to be noticing a healing and beneficial effect.
Mm-hmm.
But I think where a lot of people get stuck is, and this is something that I see with my patients and in clinical practice a lot, is that people know all of that. They know what a whole food is now. They know that, you know, white flour or that gluten isn't good for them, but they don't actually know or have the drive or have the time or have the knowledge to actually take those foods out of their diet and bring in more of the whole foods and the good foods. And so it's really about sitting down and going, okay, what do I need to work on here? What do I need to take out? And then work on adding these better foods back into the diet. And I think that was, I know one of the first times that we met about creating the medicinal meal plans, that was a real reason that we're like, this is why we really want to create these, because people are looking for this information and they know that they want to eat whole foods and that it's good for them, and they want to do it and they want to get there, but they're just not quite sure how. You know, how do I eat gluten-free? How do I cook something that is going to specifically help me and my health with where I'm at right now? So I think it's an incredibly potent step having that awareness, because then we can go on and make all of those changes where we need to.
Yeah, exactly. So spot on. And I think for our second point, it relates very much to what you're saying. And it's one of my favourite tips, to crowd out the bad foods instead of cutting them out. So as you mentioned, you know, we know what whole foods are, and I think it can be a little bit overwhelming when you see information or you're told, you know, you can't have this, you can't have this, you can't have this, you can't have this. And it's just, that's all you can think about. It's just like the amount of times in the past I'd put certain foods into like an imaginary, I'm not allowed to eat this box.
Yeah.
I was just like, I need to eat those foods.
Yes, it makes you want to eat them more.
Yeah, it drives me crazy. And I kind of thought, oh no, that won't happen to me. I won't think like that. But it so happens. So I think the best thing to do is just start adding things in. So rather than thinking, I must not eat this ever again, like just start, you know, where can you add more whole foods into your meals, into your snacks all throughout the day? And you'll just kind of notice that it does literally crowd out the bad foods. There's no space for you to eat them because you're focusing on eating the whole foods. So yeah, I think it's really important to not cut out, because then as well, if you do find yourself, you know, if you do eat something that you said you wouldn't, it causes so much stress and guilt, and that's not what this is about. Yeah. And I think definitely one thing that helps is to start filling your pantry with healthy staples. So, you know, where can you upgrade the quality of what you're eating, and what can you start having in your pantry that will just make it so much easier for you to grab that instead of something that's not going to contribute to your health. Yeah.
And I would probably add to that, now that you say that, I see that mindset shift happen to a lot of patients, because I'll see someone in front of me and they're really inflamed and they're really unwell, and I say, look, I'm really going to help you to implement this, but a whole bunch of foods, they've got to go, and they're really not serving you, unfortunately. And you will get better if you stop eating them. And so I myself don't eat gluten, and I feel heaps better if I don't. And I've almost been gluten-free for 10 years. And now it doesn't actually even register on my radar. And for someone who's just started, you know, going out for breakfast and having 2 pieces of sourdough or 2 pieces of bread being sat on their plate is just like the worst thing in the world, because they're just looking at them going, I can't eat it, I can't eat it, I can't eat it, I can't eat it.
And then you want to go eat a loaf of bread when you get home.
But then you start to turn your perspective to all the things you can eat. And all the things that all of a sudden you'll start eating more foods and different foods, because bread isn't taking up your whole day anymore. Like, it actually opens up your variety and your options.
Yeah, and I think eating that way feels so abundant. Like, when you look at certain diets, they just feel so restricted, and like, I just want to say, like, makes you feel really small, and like you can't, you know, you've just got this narrow amount of food that you can eat. But when you focus on crowding in, like you're saying, it opens you up to this whole world of like, oh my goodness, I can eat all this stuff, and it just feels really,
yeah, focusing on can't never really feels very abundant at all, I don't think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, probably the third point that would maybe take this another step further that we wanted to touch on as well was individualizing, and is another thing that I think we felt was really important to do with the medicinal meal plans. And that is actually after you have the capacity to know, okay, this is what I'm eating, this is what I need to crowd out, this is what I need to bring in, is to then take it a bit of a step further and go, okay, so are there certain foods out there, are there certain whole foods or certain food groups that are going to actually be quite specific for me and that are going to be very beneficial in helping me heal and kind of supercharge my efforts and accelerate it a little bit, rather than just eating, you know, that diet that Women's Health tell everyone that we should all eat. Like, I don't really think that general blanket approach is A, what people are looking for anymore, but B, is no way, shape or form the correct way to go if you really want to kind of settle into the diet that's really going to help you.
Yeah.
So I don't really think there's any point on filling up on, you know, X food just because a magazine or blog tells you to, when really your health picture might be screaming out that you need Y.
Yeah.
And I think a really classic example can be for some people who are very inflamed and who have a lot of issues with gut, that there's that real perspective out there that they need to switch to whole grains and everything being, you know, protein and low GI carbohydrates, when really they would actually benefit from eating a diet that's quite high in fat per se, because fat can be quite anti-inflammatory, and actually lowering down the carbs or lowering down the grains because they can be quite inflammatory to the gut. So, you know, someone might be telling you that oats are the best thing under the sun, or that everyone should be eating buckwheat, when really that might not actually be right for you at all. And obviously that can go down very specifically, but I think one of the reasons we did create the medicinal meal plans was that we knew that people were looking for answers and solutions that specifically applied to them. So I think that taking that into consideration is incredibly important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, should we move on to the fourth point?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is to become a label reader and not to get sucked into healthy buzzwords that are plastered all over products that really aren't that healthy. And when we were chatting about this, I said, I literally don't buy anything now without looking at what's in it. And I can't imagine buying a product and not knowing the ingredients. And it's just a habit that started years and years ago. But once you do get into that habit, you'll be so amazed what's in food. Like, and how it kind of sucks you into, oh, well, the packaging looks healthy, it must be good. And then you look at the back and it's like, whoa, that is not good.
Yeah.
So definitely a really good habit to start with. And, you know, if I'm at a friend's house and they've put out a packet of rice crackers, I'm not going to go ask them to look at the packet. You know, you don't have to take it that far, but just when you're shopping for yourself, definitely it's such a, you know, mind-opening, like, what you just don't believe what's in some food ingredients. And even things like I was at a cafe the other day and there was on the menu there was a smoothie, and it said, you know, in brackets for gym junkies, and it had this really healthy name, and I was looking at what was in it and I was like, oh my goodness, no. There was sorbet, there was protein powder, which, you know, it can be fine, but you don't know perhaps the type that they're using, because you can get really nasty protein powders. It was skim milk, like it was just not, you know, what we would consider healthy. And it's just so misleading when I think you look at the, you know, the buzzwords for, you know, for gym junkies, you think, oh, it must be healthy, but just,
I think misleading is the perfect word, because, you know,
and maybe they have good intentions, but, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it is a huge wake-up call when you start reading labels, because if you're under the impression that if a company has your best interest at heart when it's putting that on the label. It's really, really a shame that no, they do not. They're trying to move more product, and so they're gonna do what they need to do to get you to buy it. But I remember once I was somewhere, and it must have been at a health food store, and there was this big display, and they were selling gluten-free cheese puffs. And
No, I know that what you're talking about.
I was just a bit flabbergasted, to be honest, because I saw quite a few people buying it for their children, because obviously being gluten-free, then there wasn't any gluten in it. But if you picked up the back and read it, it was full of like GMO corn and that really lovely orange, shock orange, neon orange colour, and so many preservatives and thickeners and whatever it needed to do to get those cheese balls to just last for like 4 years on the shelf.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, yep, fantastic, they're gluten-free, so that means they're for me. And I just, I can't agree. I can't agree.
That's so true. And like if you see products that says, you know, organic or contains organic cinnamon, but like the only thing in that whole entire product that's organic is literally the dash of cinnamon that goes in. Or if like a brand name is the organic company, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I think, definitely need to start being detectives on those food labels.
Awareness, again, is what it comes down to. Makes everything easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, I suppose that probably ties on quite nicely to our fifth point, and that really is cutting out that overwhelm and really starting where you're at. So if you're a label reader at the moment, then that's fantastic, and you learn as you go to kind of understand what things are, and you can research things if you're not quite sure what that is. But if you haven't been doing that yet, then that's just even a fantastic place to start. Or just understanding what kind of additives or preservatives can be in food.
Exactly, yeah.
Or if you are quite, you know, I have patients who are really time poor, they're really unwell, and I say, okay, let's just start with breakfast. You know, what's 5 ideas that we can come up with for breakfast? And when you feel like you've conquered that and you've found your 3 or 4 recipes that you lean on throughout the seasons and the weeks and the months, then we'll move on.
Exactly. There's absolutely no need to feel overwhelmed. And the nutrition world is overwhelming because you have this person saying one thing, this person saying another thing, and I think people don't know which way to go sometimes. And I'll see people in the health food shop just being like, this is another world. Like, what is all this stuff?
Yeah.
So you don't, like definitely baby steps, 100%. Just keeping meals simple. Like all the meals in the medicinal meal plans are so simple because I don't like complicating things. Like we're busy, everyone's busy, we don't have time to, you know, create these super duper complex meals. So I think keeping it simple is so beneficial.
Yeah, and there's so many blogs out there that make food so pretty, and I wrote this in the introduction of the meal plans because it is like my mantra, honestly, in that I was reading a recipe one day that it was like South African ruby grapefruit with wild harvested pink peppercorns and then picked from the forest in Sweden with on top of like this raw, you know, 7-layered vegan cake. And I was like, geez Louise, guys, I'm a total health nut and I'm the first one to put my hand up to make a raw vegan cake. And I would drool at that picture, but there was no way it would ever convert from being on my screen to ever being created in my kitchen because I do not have enough time. I do not have enough energy to go out and create a 7-layer raw vegan cake. So overall, I just want good food that fills me up, that nourishes me, that works to make me healthier, but most of all without any of that fuss or without needing to contain 1,000,000 ingredients in order to do so. And I think that's why you're probably the perfect girl for the job in creating all of the meals in the medicinal meal plans, because all of your food is so healthy, so amazing, so nutrient dense, very flavoursome, but it's so simple, and that's what I really love. I really like your philosophy on that front. Yeah. And probably just another quick thing that I'd like to touch on is the concept of superfoods as well. For a lot of people that can seem really overwhelming, or like they're doing the wrong thing if they're not eating them or if they're not eating the right thing. And I think, again, it's a very perfect example of just starting where you're at. So if you're at the process of trying to switch from those nutrient-dense foods into the more nutrient-depleting foods into the more nutrient-dense, nourishing whole foods, then just focus on that for now. And if you're already eating quite healthily, putting a teaspoon of spirulina into your smoothie is going to be fantastic. Anyone can do that. But if you're not at the stage of, wanting to sprinkle maca over your morning muesli or, whatever it is, then just start where you're at and just focus on getting as many good foods into your diet as possible, because that is going to be the most potent way to get you feeling better in the quickest amount of time. So this topic is a really huge passion of ours, and I'm sure that we could keep talking about it for hours and hours. And it's really why we created the meal plans, I think, so we could kind of put all this information down and share it with other people so that they could hopefully find some use and be helped out of it. And I think that they create, they're a really, really good resource all in one, because they give you the nutrients and they list down the nutrients that you need to heal a specific condition. And that's all very well and good. If you know that you need vitamin C or magnesium or vitamin D or whatever it is, that's great. But then what do you do with that information? How do you implement it? How does that then show up in your food? So with us infusing those nutrients into the recipes and the meals and the meal plans, it really, I think, kind of kills two birds with one stone, in the way that it's working on both of those and helping you to actually implement all of those ideas and create those healthy meals. And so you actually know, you have the education and the knowledge as to why eating that particular dish is actually good for you.
Yeah. So if you want to start making your meals medicinal this year, and would like just a little nudge in the right direction, we have a free sneak peek of one of our books on our website, so you can download and see what's inside and kind of get a feel about what they're about. And we'll put the correct links below so people can find where they can download those. And if you are interested in buying one of the meal plans, we currently have a New Year's sale, and it'll be running, it starts today, and it'll be running for a few weeks, and each ebook is 25% off. So we really want to get this into your hands, and it's just like a little New Year treat from us to you to get you on the right foot for the year.
Definitely. So from both of us, Happy New Year. I really hope, and we hope, that you've had a really great start to 2015 and that you have some really fantastic things in store for the year ahead. And we hope you enjoy either the sneak peek or the full medicinal meal plan, and that you get lots of use out of it.
Yeah, and if you have any questions as well, just leave a comment below on our blogs and we'll get back to you on that as well.
Yes. Okay, well, bye for now.
Oh, bye.